The heaviest things in life aren't gold or silver, but unmade decisions. This quote comes to us from Alex Ramosi, and is a quote that has haunted me for a long time, and haunted me in a good, constructive way, because it is so true. And it doesn't even matter, the gold and silver. It's really just the fact that unmade decisions truly eat up so much of our life. And I think when you can come to this realization and also come to the understanding that, I don't know, for me it feels like when things happen, and maybe that's just because, they happened, but when you look back, it's like you just can't imagine things happening any other way. Like, to me, it all just feels divine. Like, everything is happening for a reason, and that reason is for the best. And when you can realize this, it helps make decisions so much easier, because you don't get caught up in the, oh, is this the right decision? Is this the wrong decision? This, that, or the other. You kind of just accept it more and realize that, so many of the amazing things that have already happened to you in life were basically outside of your control. To a certain degree, there's at least one element of, one of or many of or all of the best things that have ever happened to you that was solely and utterly, completely out of your control. And I think that realization can help you just accept things more, and accept that, whether I do this or do that, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And I think this is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, how trivial the things we so passionately want are. And I believe that's what he meant, because we act as if the things we so passionately want will give us happiness. We act as if, if I just had that. I was thinking the other day while I was hiking, it's like, what if I wasn't doing this? I mean, at the end of the day, it's my peace, my happiness. It isn't dependent on this. And I think when you can remind yourself that and say, is this really something that I'm going to say, when, everything's going against me, life gets really hard. Is this really a memory I'm going to call upon, and it's going to give me strength? It's going to give me, the fortitude to overcome the situation? Most likely not. Most likely not. In those situations, we don't, recall past events and then just say, oh, it's all right. I hiked in the Alps back when I was 22, or, it's all right. I had such a great dinner at that place that was so hard to get a reservation. Those are the things we let upset us, but they're so trivial. They don't bring happiness. If anything, they just bring more of a desire for more things of that nature. So I think just to remember that and realize that these unmade decisions are weighing so heavy on us. And it's like, it's already written anyways. So just make a decision. If it's, I think at times, even in myself, sometimes I believe in destiny, other times I don't. But more times than not, I accept the belief that, if it's destined to happen, it's going to find a way. And if it's not destined to happen, it's going to find a way. I mean, it's clear that so many things can prevent things. Back when COVID happened, You could have done everything right your whole life and, started a business. And if that business you were started was just destined to fail, it's literally a 100-year pandemic happened. So it's just, so many of the things are outside of your control. And just making a decision and making it the right decision, not, and this is kind of why I brought up how trivial the things we so passionately want are, because act as if the other decision you didn't make was the decision you made, because the one you made you're feeling like now is the wrong decision or something like that. It's still trivial. It's still in the external world. It's still not something that's going to give you everlasting peace and happiness. And as Seneca says, it's not where you go, but who you are when you go. It doesn't really matter where you are. It matters who you are. And it doesn't really matter the decision you make, because, now I'll quote you some Epictetus, where he says we should be, he has a lesson or a lecture in his book. He talks about the paradox of being cautious and confident. And he says we must be confident in everything outside of our control, because it is in, God's hands, fortune's hands, and we can be confident that we have no control over it. But the things within our control, he says, we must be cautious, because these are the things that degrade the soul. These are the things that harm us. These are the things that hurt us, not the things outside of our control. As Epictetus also says, it's not the things that happen to us, or it's not what happens to you, it's how you react that matters. It's never what happens. It's only how you react. That is only ever what matters. Also, now it's not really like it, but in the beginning you had the fog and then the peaks. And I don't know if you guys know the painting, Man Wandering Above a Sea of Fog, but if you don't, you should look it up. And that's what I think about every time I'm hiking and I'm above the clouds, and especially while I'm doing this, because that painting's arguably about someone either starting an adventure and looking at where they're going to go, or finishing an adventure and reminiscing and contemplating what they just did. But I really just want to make this video. And also my last point, let me close it out. Because our decisions do matter. I don't want to put across the point that, whatever you do doesn't matter. But the decisions of how we react, the decisions of acting honorably, these are the things that matter. And these are the only things you need to focus on. And so often we know what the morally right decision is. So we don't need to spend so much time going back and forth, worrying about, if I do this, then, or if I do this, maybe I'll regret not doing that. And if I do that, maybe I'll regret not doing this. All you have to do is ask yourself, am I acting honorably? Is this a decision I'll look back upon and be happy with myself? Because when I look back on my life, there is some decisions that do help me in times of, sadness, despair, whatever you may. And those are the decisions when I took it upon myself to make a misfortunate situation a fortunate situation by how I acted, by how I decided to handle the situation, how I think in my eyes I acted honorably. Those are the things that you know, sometimes you do look back upon it and you say, good job, proud of you. But, you know, not the things where you're like, oh, dude, I'm so glad I, you know, planned that trip in advance and booked those tickets to that place, because, wow. I mean, every time I'm sad, I remember it and it gives me happiness. Like, no one says that. But some people do take deep, real pleasure in how they acted in misfortunate situations. Because to act honorably in misfortunate situation and to make it makes it a great good fortune. And this is how you truly come to know your true character. You aren't who you are when everything's going right. When your mood's up, you feel great, and everything's going the way you want it to. That's not who you are. You're who you are when everything is going against you, when everything's hard, when everything seems to be happening for the worst reasons. But you're still kind to unkind people. You're still I just heard some glacier fall. But you're still living up to the ideals that you know you believe in. I mean, those are things that you can call upon in times of need, in desperation. Living up to principles that you truly believe in. But yeah, for the unmade decisions being the heaviest things in life, I think if you can just remind yourself how trivial this thing is at the end of the day, because if it's in the external world, it's not going to bring you happiness. It's not going to bring you peace. And also remind yourself that if the outcome truly isn't even within your control, then it's neither good or bad. And if it has nothing to do with acting honorably or virtue, then it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's just a earthly, fleshly desire. And so often it's acquiring is actually the thing preventing your peace, not the thing giving you peace. You're wanting and acquiring that thing is the thing preventing your happiness, especially the achieving it, because then the anxiety of losing it is now upon you.